Welcome to the AI Riff, where we cut through the noise and break down the top AI stories of the week with real talk and real relevance. No hype, no fluff, just a vendor agnostic take on what's actually shaping your world today. Whether you're in tech, lending, or just trying to make sense of the headlines, we're here to separate the wheat from the chaff and the facts from fiction. Now let's get started with your hosts, Mario Di Benedetto, Rob Katz, Ruth Lee, and me, Kyle Myers. We hope you enjoy this episode of the AI Riff.
Welcome to episode 19.
Yay!
Woot woot.
Guess
it's almost like
back?
your October scary voice there for a second,
We're all
Mario.
back.
Jeez.
Listen, I'm just trying to make sure people are awake. Like, who knows when people listen to this stuff?
That's
I
true.
know. Could be 3 a.m. for some people. Actually, it probably is 3 a.m. for some people all the time.
I think we could do a good job of lulling people into their sleep.
Well, if Mario,
But we'll try not to.
you have a soft tone voice. You could go to nighttime radio and people would be falling asleep at the wheel driving home all the time. You'd be the smooth jazz with Mario Di Benedetto. Yeah. So what do we got today?
Today, we're going to lean on a little article that Ruth did based on, it was on the National Bureau of Economic Research article. Yeah, Ruth?
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Take it away, Ruth. This is going to be
Always
fun.
exciting.
So it was a really interesting piece. And, NBER is a private, nonpartisan research organization of Cambridge, Massachusetts. And what they did is they really went into in-depth on OpenAI. And it's important that we really say that it's about OpenAI and ChatGPT. It's not about Copilot. It's not about Anthropic. It's not, Claude. It's really about that. And what they wanted to do was to really look at the usage and how people were using it. And so, one of the things that I thought was very interesting was how, because I'm always looking at how reporters latch on to statistics and how they try to use it as clickbait, right? And so immediately the thing that they're looking at is the work versus non-work share and how, very clearly, the share of work messages. So the things that people were actually, it fell as a percentage from 47 to 27. Proof positive that OpenAI, it's over. We're all, we've all been talking about something that is completely useless. And, the problem that I had with it, and so I redid some of the numbers, was the denominator. I mean, sure, the actual percentage went down, but if you look at the actual number of messages that people are doing, it went from 225 million a day to 780 million a day. So, while as a percentage share it went down, it definitely, that was one of the areas. And then the other thing that I thought was really important was the asking versus doing, where it was really talking about how people use it rather than saying, hi, would you write a 500-word essay for me so that I can post this and give it to my teacher? Instead, it was more along the lines of asking rather than doing. Hi, I wrote this 50-word thesis on blah, blah, blah. Would you give me some feedback and maybe some research? Here, I wrote this LinkedIn post. I wrote this email. Would you give me feedback? Instead, it's asking rather than doing, which I think is a substantive change in what people thought it was going to do. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, and I think one of the ongoing challenges for any sort of business executive is to weed through all these kinds of reports like you did to focus on the work-related pieces because they've blended in the messaging, right? They threw out, work went down. It didn't go down. It went up. But it was just that the consumer side of the equation went up so astronomically fast, it looked like it was dwarfing the other piece. And so in all these reports, like you can't read too much into the consumer side of the equation.
Yeah, and how many people actually pay for it. And that's another really important thing, which is of those people who are using it, a tiny fraction pay for it. I'm sorry, Kyle, I interrupted.
No, I'm going to just pile on to exactly what your article is about, which is you can take data and make it sound and be whatever you want it to be. And they did, instead of using occurrence rate, they used percentage of overall rate. And that's wrong. You have to, well, it's not wrong to do the analysis. It's wrong to not present it in both directions and show people, although usage is up, as a percentage, it's less, and then go into the reasons why it's less. And your article really draws attention to exactly why it's less, which is, of course, everybody and their brother is going to do it to do their shopping list and do all the fun stuff. And like me, I'm a perfect example of the increase in the I'm in more of the request, what was it called? The asking versus the doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the perfect example of that. And of course it's going to go up because people are getting familiar with it. They want to touch it. They want to see how it works. They want to see how cool it is. And it's awesome. Plus you're going to have more people that have been using it say, you know what, I've done the hard lifting, like Rob's built his own, what is it? Roland. I mean, and then pretty soon you're just asking Roland questions. You're not actually having Roland do anything. But there are times where you'll have him do something. So I think ultimately your take on this is a necessary descriptor to the market for people who are trying to discern what the heck is going on with AI. And I think you did a great job.
I have a question for Rob, because one of the things that it talks about is like, oh, well, coding is only 4.2%. Right. But only recently was Codex brought out, and it's looking at the entire history of time.
Like 3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the best solution, or it kind of waxes and wanes. I'd love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of highlights the point you mentioned it at the beginning. All the stats are just from ChatGPT, which is one vendor out of 4 vendors, right? And as you just mentioned, ChatGPT's entryway into coding is just a couple. Well, yes, you could ask ChatGPT to help with coding from the beginning, 2 years ago when it first came out, but it's Codex product that competes with Anthropic's product that's designed for coding and software engineering is very, very, very new. So statistically inaccurate. That's the other part I found too that was interesting about this is because it's just focused on ChatGPT, what's it hiding? Like when you sit there and look at what are people doing in work? Well, if most people are in a Windows environment and Office 365 subscribers in the business world, I don't know what the statistics are of what percentage of businesses do that. And Copilot's not now built into everything that, well, really, if you brought in all AI tools, would the numbers be as skewed between consumer and business as they ended up being within this report, right? I don't know how many, if you look at it from a non-business perspective, the use of AI, I'd like to see the comparison of ChatGPT to Gemini to other tools that are out there. And I'm going to guess that ChatGPT is way, way higher compared to the others. Maybe Gemini's there a lot, because it's built into Google. You do a Google search, guess what? You're using Gemini now, right? But if you sit there and go, like people who are seeking out and logging into Gemini to do something compared to ChatGPT for not work purposes, I'm going to guess it's skewing pretty high towards ChatGPT, which again throws off all these numbers even further. So it kind of comes back to what we talked about on last week's podcast with a similar type of report. What was the question that was asked? How did they get framed it? Like what was the research trying to get out of it? So Kyle, to your point, you can take any number and make it look like anything you want. So this was, we should all pay attention. This was looking at one vendor that for the past 2 years has been very strong on the consumer side, recently got into the business side with their coding, work that's capable through Codex. So yeah, it's tip of the hat, Ruth, for taking the time to dig in and look at the real numbers and see what's there. I thought what was interesting too, and if you want to touch on a little bit, the call out of low income and female users and what they're what they're using it for and so forth was interesting. Why don't you round out that story a bit if you can?
Well, as we kind of talk about that low income and and those type of users, I think that it's a really interesting perspective, as because you were talking about Microsoft Office and how those are used, right? Well, there's a whole lot of people who are not allowed to use those. When I deal with large organizations, that is completely not available, etc. What I think is really interesting is how, this was really a very male centric functionality, and it has really become, more women have started to use OpenAI and ChatGPT, and it's one of the more surprising signals. I mean, because adoption growth is fastest in lower income countries. And the reason being, you have to imagine, which is there has always been someone who has been between those and the way to get information, and not just data, but an explanation of information. And when you think about like how unbelievably powerful it is to say, okay, great, I would like to get a mortgage in Japan. Can you explain that to me in Swahili? Right? You know what I mean? Like, that's a whole change. I mean, that's a paradigm shift. I would like to open a bank account, but I have this problem.
Yeah.
And
Do I have a
rather than
cold or
me
do I have Ebola? It's like,
but rather than me needing to go to a gatekeeper, and
Yep.
it's even a cultural thing, right? My mother is a CPA. She's a Hispanic CPA, and they call her licenciada, right? Because she has a license, so she knows things. I mean, they'll even go to the doctor to ask them questions about real estate because they're considered to have a license, and then they have answers. It's a cultural thing. Well, you imagine how amazing it is to not have a cultural shift. I can just go to my answer box and it's going to answer me.
so how does that, I don't understand how it's, how it's like male, female specific. I don't understand how that's, I'm not sure how they're getting that number, first of all, without prying into people's personal life, but also why would that be different? Like I looked at productivity, especially in our industry, in the mortgage industry. I look at productivity from men and male and female, and I don't see where I would have a disparity in the productivity and the abilities of men and women. I think there's great men out there and there's great women out there. Probably more, if I'm being honest, more great women out there doing, great work in the mortgage industry. I'm not sure why that number would be increasing just in women. Why wouldn't they have adopted it just as easy? Is it the coding side of it, or is it the techie geeky side of it? Is that maybe there's
I
less
think it's the
women in
techie
tech?
side. As a gamer,
Yeah.
I mean, as a gamer, guys are always first adopters. And, I mean, when I started gaming in 2004, I was like one of like 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And it has normalized over time where it is, I mean, it's not as much of, but games are also not as just hardcore aggressive. So
Well, that's a good example, though. It's it just baffled me, that number. And then I get the lower income because maybe they don't have access to as much, maybe on their phone, maybe a ChatGPT account, maybe whatever, maybe. But you would think they'd be heavy Gemini users if it's in Google and it's free, and they're doing adoption that way. Because most people, even across the disparate incomes, I mean, just across the gap that we have in incomes, most people have a phone, and
Yeah.
in the U.S.
So yeah, I was gonna say you may be coming at it from a little bit of an ethnocentristic perspective, right? This is a worldwide study of worldwide uses of ChatGPT.
Oh, okay. I
Right.
thought it was more
Lots of
U.S.
different,
based.
there are plenty, and I'm not an expert in this at all, but there are plenty of geographic regions where women are not in the workforce and they are
Mhm.
discouraged from doing technology. And so you have to really look at it from that broader perspective.
Well,
So
that helps because I was thinking it was more the data was more U.S. centric, and
All
that opens it
ChatGPT
up.
usage. Yeah.
and it might be useful just to point out this and other things we'll reference are all true research reports. Like they're citing one another, right, in their findings and basically, saying we disagreed here based on that. And I had to go back and look because it came out a week or so before this particular report. Anthropic's report, I pulled it up. It comes to the same conclusions. So Anthropic did their own, right? And there's a whole bunch of things that are different because Claude is different and because it is deeper into the coding piece of the world. But there's an economic disparity. There's a job, like it's got basically the same patterns seem to exist in their data.
Do you think they're doing that because future marketing opportunities, because they got to know who's using it and how they're using it, in what way, so they can market tools and ideas for the people who are using it for casual use and people who are using it for work?
They're probably also looking at it from an infrastructure build out perspective. Where in the world do we need more closer data centers? What kind of data centers do we need? What kind of processing power do we need?
I
You
think
have to imagine that, just from where the tip of the spear is on AI. I mean, for almost a year and a half, all I would hear about is AI is going to destroy the earth because it's killing children's education. And so women, have been very close to where that is. They've been hearing lots of, cautionary tales, et cetera. But women drive household and educational adoption. And they're very, very close to that. Not to say that men aren't as close, and that I think that divide has really shifted, especially over the last 15 to 20 years as you're looking generationally. But if you look around the world, I mean, people, if you are trying to figure out what is water prices in your local market, or goat prices, or tea prices, or coffee prices, I mean, the fastest way to do it is here. And especially if you're looking for it in your own language, this is a game changer.
So gross, massive, huge oversimplification. My 2 cents is these reports basically say part of what you just said, that one of the primary, by far, uses of AI is to replace Google search, right? To ask a question and to write stuff. And that's a huge oversimplification, but that's basically what these reports say. And there's stuff about automation, there's stuff about doing tasks, and there's stuff about but the reality of how much of that is really getting done, these reports say it's a tiny fraction. Now, it's a tiny fraction of 700 million total users or whatever. It still can be a big number.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is right now, most of what you do is the chat interface, and that's how people use it, even on the work stuff.
Well, and so let's cycle back to one of the things, Mario, that you brought up in several of the past podcasts, which is it's not really good at other stuff yet, right? And so we're learning that, and so we're not trying to make it do the stuff it's not good at, right? So, we're honing in on the stuff that it is good at. It is good at doing those things you just mentioned, and that's what people are using it for because it's good at it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Another, just to touch on a point you mentioned, Ruth, getting someone's data centers across the globe and positioning of data centers. Maybe this data could help them understand the demographics and the amount of people, and where should we put the sources closer to the resources closer to the people that are using it. Do you think that the countries that are having major struggles with water and energy are going to be able to even have that ability? I mean, how does that, do we reach a point where is that going to be a problem or not? I mean, is it a problem that we have the resources or the ability to do it in our country, and maybe another countries have it, but others don't, in the fact that we are a worldwide, the WWW, World Wide Web? I mean, is it that pressing that the work is being done through the lines, through the fiber optics and the satellites, and not actually in their own country? Is that going to be an issue at all?
Well, maybe to some degree, but like you said, you drop the fiber optics and the data goes pretty fast, speed of light. And so it could just be making sure there's more connectivity. Now, don't fool yourself. Even the cost of dropping fiber optics, to regional places that are off the coast and stuff, very, very expensive. Not as expensive as building data centers necessarily, but it's a solution, but not a cheap solution.
Yeah. But it was a great article, Ruth. I'm wiser having read it, so I really appreciate it.
Well, it was where I get, because I get my backup when I'm like, did it really say that?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really say that basically, because you can also look at Anthropic. I mean, he's talking about entry level positions and how they are all going, and they're how entry level positions are at risk. Well, I think that anytime technology is in place, entry level jobs are at risk. The people following the combines, job was at risk. The people who were plugging operator things, their job was at risk. Printers, their job was at risk. But I think that what we're doing is, rather than saying that all of these jobs are at risk and freaking people out, we're re-leveling, right? Entry level is now going to mean a requirement. It's what we talked about last week. You need to know how to prompt engineer.
Yep.
Sorry. And if you don't know how to communicate, like all of those soft skills about communication and being able to convey the things that are in your brain to come out of your mouth and to type them here, those are going to be really important. And for people who don't know how to communicate,
Right.
this is going to be a hard transition for them.
But I think that the entry level positions is all across the map of what industry you're in, because I think overall the entry level positions are, most industries are not going to see a major shift downwards, because especially when you go across the muscular class with plumbers getting apprenticeships, electricians, all those things that you physically have to do something. But also in sales, there's still salespeople out there. As much as we want to think that it's all going to be done digitally and people just make choices there, good salespeople are hard to find, and you need to have those kind of people, and they need to be mentored. They need to have starting point. So I think that there's some like report building people that, they needed a bunch of junior level associates to build for data scientists and those kind of things. Yeah, those are probably pretty clear targets for reduction. But I know that there is going to be reduction, but I don't know if it's going to be as wholesale. Everyone's so gloom and doom that it's going to end everything. I just think it's going to be, you've got it. I can't believe colleges need to train people on AI and prompt engineering and a way to be a conductor of AI.
I think we, because we're tech people, sometimes fall into the trap of thinking that most people think like us, and that the
Nobody
other
thinks like
article
me.
that we were talking about, which is a study from Seismic Foundation, which is just a nonprofit that does AI research, kind of says, no, that's not really the case. Like even across one job title, it's not a monolith. People have very different perspectives on AI in general, but they also have very different perspectives on what their expectations are. Some are very positive and optimistic about it, and some are really not trusting. And I think if you're out there trying to roll stuff out, you have to kind of mimic that, I think, in the way you think about rolling out to your own people, right? You have to, and they did 5 different personas. You have to assume you've got people who are huge skeptics of AI in general. And if you drop the AI, out there, they're going to immediately get upset and worry about it, right? And for various different reasons. And then other people who are going to be like, like you said, teach me how to do it. Make me a conductor. Teach me.
Right.
Like they'll consume it, but not everybody. You can't just say to everybody, "Hey, go do this," because you have to.
I agree.
Well, and to your comment, those trust gaps that we were talking about, I mean, they are significantly sharper along gender and income lines. That
And
is
age.
more so than occupational lines. And but if you go through those pieces, half of users admit that they have uploaded sensitive data directly, like slap dab into it.
Is that
And so
bad?
huh?
Is that bad?
Oh no. I mean, you can find. I have gone through the whole process.
Sensitive.
I mean, apparently everyone on Earth knows my social security number.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Sensitive.
just going to start putting it into my name.
So it was emotionally caring data? What are you talking about? It's a sensitive data. I don't understand. If you know what, I do say that though, Ruth, your article feeds into the presentation. Where did you get that presentation, Mario, that we had? was the second article that we had. Where did you find that?
Don't ask me where I get things because I go through so many newsletters, I can't trace them back.
So it was
honestly.
a newsletter. Okay.
Yes, it was somebody's newsletter that linked to this report. Yeah.
So if anybody wants to search for it, it's called On the Razor's Edge, again, from a company called Seismic, SEISMIC. Pretty fascinating. So they take the universe of people and they put them into, as Mario mentioned, 5 different buckets. So they've got this tech positive urbanites. And those are people who are like happy to enjoy the benefits of AI in their personal lives, but highly worried about their jobs. Right. That describes a lot of people, obviously. The global guardians, they're more worried about the world than themselves, and they see AI as a threat to society. The anxious alarmists. So for them, AI is just one more sign that the world is heading in the wrong direction. They have the diverse dreamers, cautiously optimistic about AI, but ever aware of the potential risk to society, their children, and their jobs. And then there's the stressed strivers, right? Busy with everyday life and quietly optimistic. They see some warning signs, but not as many as they should. So it's kind of interesting, these kind of 5 different buckets. And the report gets into statistical details about how each of these 5 demographics are thinking about AI, worrying about AI, and so forth. It's really a fascinating read.
What would you consider yourself?
All of them. I feel like I got little bits and pieces in each one of those things. Probably the diverse dreamer, cautiously optimistic about AI.
Mario, what about you?
No, I think I'm the tech positive urbanite. Like, it's funny. So for those that aren't not seeing the report as we're doing it, what throws you off when you try to label yourself is
maybe you can share it. Can we share it, Mario? Can you share that screen?
I can share parts of it. It's a lot, and I'll throw stuff up here once I stop talking. But it says things like, how much you're likely to want more regulation or less regulation on AI, how much you trust AI developers. Like, there's some crazy tidbits dropped in there where you're like, well, hold it, do I really agree with that, or do I? And that can throw you off a little. It is a phenomenal amount of data. So definitely recommend if anybody's listening and wants to really kind of pour through this, we'll get that link for it.
What I'd like to do is I'd like to take the report though and count how many times they say the word worry, because the report makes me feel like everyone is worried about this, and that's not
so. But
concern.
Isn't that a good thing?
About its future is one thing, but worry is like.
So let me take the complete opposite view, right? Because we are so optimistic and we talk about wanting change management in a box. Mm-hmm. But to me, being extra super duper worried about every possible little thing is the basis for good change management, right? It doesn't say you're going to do something, but you at least recognize it might be a possibility.
Risk averse is different than worry.
But don't you wish people had that same worry when social media came out, and instead they were like, what's the worst that could happen? Let's give my 5-year-old a phone. It's going to be great.
So Kyle, I just did a search and it appears 70 times in the 71-page paper.
Once a page, they say worry.
Yeah.
I think that we as a society
have
gotten a little bit burnt on, we're a little bit fatigued on the amount of information that's available. We're a little bit fatigued on trying to discern what is true and what was just invented whole cloth, because it sounds very good. It sounds very, very good. And then you read it and you're like, where did you get that statistic? And I invented it because I thought it would be nice. and so you have to be careful about, looking. So I think worry is a respectable thing, especially when we're talking about, the potential of decisioning. And that's really where I like that it's going more asking than doing. Let me ask your support on how I'm going to underwrite this file rather than why don't you underwrite the file?
But how do you do that when most of the people don't know a lot about AI as you're putting out this report, and then it's like asking someone, are you worried about the viscosity of your oil in your Chevy pickup? Because it's not. I think so. I don't know. Maybe should I be getting 5 to 20? Should I be getting 530?
It's like asking your loan officer, are you sure that you're going to use the Anthropic Claude model 4 Sonnet 4 over ChatGPT because it's going to give you no, they don't know any of those details. And all I'm getting from this whole thing is that you really have to be empathetic that people are at very different places in this process.
Yeah.
They have a less awareness. They have they've heard things that we don't even know what they've heard, which cause them to think differently. And you need to be empathetic that people are coming from different places,
Yeah.
not where we come from, right? Not everybody is where we are.
That's a great point. And I'm just going to throw out one quick thing that I heard the other day, which was from a professional who looked me square straight in the eyes and said, I can't buy a house unless I have 20% down. And I was like,
okay.
Well, but
what's your credit score?
But she's 25, right?
Okay.
So she hasn't gone through all of that thing that we went through where we're like, well, of course that's not the case. Well, 25 years ago, that might have been the case in our world.
Mm-hmm.
But we were at a different place in our learning. And so very smart, very savvy professional, doesn't know things.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I just our industry has a bit of a knowledge locker that is, I don't know why. There are plenty of resources online to find out all this information about how mortgages work, what the requirements are, everything. You can look it up anytime and it's available. But more and more people think that the loan officer, the processor, the bank, the account rep at the bank, whatever, that they have this vault of knowledge that they can't get to. And it's the one thing I'm excited about AI is that giving that wealth of knowledge to the consumer, which is almost could be self-fulfilling demise, like, because you may lower your margins because you're not selling your intellectual property anymore. You're a commodity because everyone has the information. But that's a little bit cynical. I don't really think that way. I think that, good, again, going back to my statement, good salespeople solve that problem, and they're good at what they do, which is being customer success people. They make sure the client is handled through the whole process. So I don't think that's going to go away. But the worry is, again, just comes from, and worry is the definition of lack of knowledge of the future or the lack of knowledge of the present. That's why people worry. They don't know something.
So do you mind if I share? I'm going to share my screen out if I can figure out the right when to do here.
If we lose you, we know you hit the wrong button.
The one that I'm interested in is Rob talking about everybody's freaking out about losing their job as a developer, and I'm like, not a chance. Yeah.
So this is just rating through the people that they were surveying in terms of what are you worried about, or for each of these items, what's your worry level? Kyle, to your point. So the dark green here is a very big problem, and then as you move to the right, then it's don't know, or not a problem at all in the light blue. So war and terrorism, biggest worry for everyone. Crime and violence, big worry for everyone. All the way down here, second from the bottom, the use of AI. So people aren't worried about it. And Ruth, I what kind of strikes was when you brought up the relevance or the relationship with social media. Oh yeah, it's great. Let's go do this thing. Are we in that stage? Are people like not worried about it, but they should be worried about it? And this would reflect that people aren't worried about it enough. Maybe.
I think that people are burnt from what they have experienced from social media and how ugly it can get. And we are seeing that more and more and more. And as such, they are telegraphing some of that worry onto AI. I think that is there, that they're worried about, what am I not thinking of? Mm-hmm. What haven't we thought of? And, of course, there was a very, very popular, in fact, 1, 2, 3 movies that all talked about how AI was going to destroy the Earth with a bubble and a really, beefy, what was he, Mr. Universe?
Oh, I think it's funny because you bring me back to the old airplane movie reference. The guy goes, "Did I leave the iron on?" It's like, and maybe AI can solve that problem. If all your appliances are hooked up to Wi-Fi, you could say, the Wi-Fi. No, Roland would come back to Rob. No, your iron is off at home.
That was solved about 7 or 8 years ago.
I know. I was just trying to bring us back into the Wayback Machine. But do you really? Is there really an iron that has Wi-Fi connected?
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Everything has an app.
Maybe I am too stuck in the mortgage industry, and I just haven't peeked my head out to see what's going on.
I think everybody's at the point where they're like, no apps. I would like a coffee machine that doesn't talk to me in bed. Can it just work?
I don't need a refrigerator telling me I need more ketchup because it doesn't know in the cupboard. I've got a vat of it from Costco. It's like, I don't need that to tell me those things. Anyway, we're diverse.
But Mario, I'd love more of your insight from that second piece and kind of how that really, because it was a foil, but I felt like it really validated what we were talking about in a different way.
It really, to me, it was, again, trying to just take all the political stuff out of the equation, right? And say, you start to get these undertones of trust levels and concern levels and things like that. For me, it was really more about knowing that we're moving at the speed of light because we're involved in this every day. And there's so many people who probably just hear the hype engine, right? They just hear we're going to AGI and it's going to take over the world, or it's going to take, like all the stuff you said. And we really need to slow ourselves down. The conclusion that I came to, and I actually have an article I'm writing on it, is we need to stop saying AI. Like, AI is meaningless at this point. It causes fear in some, it causes anxiety in others. Like, why don't you actually talk about what you're actually doing? Hey, I have this tool. It helps you write stuff and it makes a better quality writing. I have this thing and it can answer every question that you ever want. Like, AI is now useless as a word because so many things have been thrown on top of it that it's like a descriptor that has no meaning, right?
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. That's like saying, I have a Vortec V8. No, I drive a Suburban. The Suburban is what you're selling. You're not selling the engine is a part of it, but you're not selling the engine. But that's the whole guts of the car. That's how it gets you from A to B. That's how it does everything. Yeah. But you're selling.
I've got a truck that can haul 2,000 pounds, right?
Yeah, I got nice seats. I got a stereo. I got all this stuff. This is great.
In our world, just say the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, all four of us, very different areas of the mortgage industry. People think that it all means like the same. I get asked, so what's the rates? I have no idea.
Let me check bank rate.
The 10 years at 4.13.
Yeah.
So
what? What'd you just say,
Rob,
Mario?
I think it's fascinating because you come from a really, really tech-rich background, and I know that people are freaking out about the idea that, it's going to take over the world. It's going to code us all into these back doors that are going to allow it to do whatever it wants to do, and all of the things. And because you were actually using it to code, do you find this big fear looming over your shoulder?
Can I just pipe in that,
Sure.
I always look to much smarter minds than mine, and there are many. 200 people across the globe just all signed the same request that the nations come together and put together what they call AI red lines, because they are fearful that AI could get out of control.
To have a real framework, yeah?
To have to say these are the guardrails of what we're going to tolerate and not tolerate. You can't just try something and say, "Oops, I just ruined the entire Earth." So there's smarter people than us who have some level of concern that we could be headed in that direction.
But what is the definition of ruining the Earth? To some people, it's making it better. To some people, it's making it worse. So
yeah, I haven't read the red lines.
Red lines are only good if they're
the red lines. I think are around destroying
everybody.
Humanity.
Yeah. Well, that's bad pretty much across the board.
I probably.
Go ahead, Rob.
Or the line said, at least I'd be here to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So Ruth, to address what you're bringing up too. So from my vibe coding perspective, look, I pay attention to what it's coding. I've talked to some other vibe coders who don't watch the chat that it's kicking back that explains what it did and stuff. Like, I look at the code. I couldn't code a line myself, but I can review and see what the logic is and stuff like that. So it's pretty under control, with an exception. So in software world, and Mario, you step in and correct me if, when I get this off, but your application can make calls out to other libraries. So you don't have to create a button on your screen. There's a library out there that has buttons on it. You just import that library, and then you can have a button in your app without having to code the whole thing. One of the fears with vibe coding is that the AI agent can import external libraries without you understanding what those libraries are. And there are bad actors out there that are now releasing libraries in the hopes that they get picked up and embedded into your application that do open up backdoors that they can take advantage of and steal information and do whatever they want to go do with it. And as a stupid vibe coder, if I'm not paying attention, or even if I see, oh, it added this other library, oh, I must get a prettier button. Like, I don't know what it's going to do, right? I'm not a developer. So there's a risk for nefarious actions to take place. Are they being driven by AI? Is AI sitting there thinking, oh, I'm going to add this library so that I can one day take over the world? I don't think that's the case at all. But are there bad human actors that are leveraging AI and people like me that are using AI in a way that I don't understand to possibly take advantage of stuff in the future? Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and Mario, as you're building these pieces, as you're building the solutions,
wait, are you accusing Mario of building these bad pieces that are getting imported into my application?
Building the solutions, how are you and your team really thinking about, hardening to make sure that these things don't come through? I mean, because I would imagine that who even knows what they are?
So maybe that's a whole podcast episode, right? I think a couple episodes I had mentioned, I went back and forth with ChatGPT, and I have no less than 25 potential villain personas that could do something in AI, with Rob kind of touching on some variation of a couple of them right there, right? There's so many different ways so many angles you have to protect yourself against. And imagine being a CIO right now and somebody saying, I'm going to give you AI, and you saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, the list of things that you have to do to validate what you just said, Ruth, is really long. And that's going all the way back to the beginning. That's why people are using this to write and to answer questions. Because everything else that is automation and apps and everything else has some level of security challenges that we really don't have the maturity on yet to just do it quickly. Like, can you do it with coding? Yes, you can absolutely spend money on programmers and get it out and get it done. But if you want to, kind of where Rob was, if you want to vibe code your way out, there's a bit of a gap right now, right? And you can absolutely do small stuff, vibe coding, and you can be safe, and it has security checks. But enterprise stuff, it's a lot of work.
No. I just continue to think like enterprise, just way no. But, for me, it's a wonderful sandlot. And I would imagine for you, Rob, it's just what a sandlot. Like, you don't have to talk to somebody and wait 6 months for the sandlot.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, but those tools that are needed right now are still going to have to be, and it's not the old way, it's just the way right now. It's the current way is still viable. And the new way is just not, it has to be thought of, but especially in our industry, we're not just, you don't have reputational risk or just data risk. You have compliance risk. You have all these other layers of risk. And so it has to be thought through. And I know that the production teams and the CEOs of the world say, hey, we want to get this done. Let's get this done now. Let's do this. And it's like, okay, if you don't have people like myself or like Mario or Rob and Ruth saying, hey, I hear you. I think that would be awesome. You could get a competitive advantage this way. But here are the risks. And a wise person once told me a long time ago, an old boss of mine said, I want to do as many loans as possible and still be in business tomorrow. Because if you bend the rule or work in the gray area and it burns you, it could burn you to the point where you don't have a company anymore. And even worse, you could be personally liable. So depending on the structure of your company. And so it is not to be played with. And that's the scary part. But the positive part is you can build those sandlots. You can build those things inside your four walls, get things functioning for your teams in small bites and small portions. You don't have to eat the elephant off the bat. You can, bring it in slow, productive, efficiency gaining ways and insert tools into your process, expose some tools to the clients, keeping them 100% outside of your environment, and manage it from the outside. Don't manage it from the inside. And you can do those things, but it takes care and it takes thought. But I don't know. Do we have more on this topic, or was that pretty much what we wanted to get out, other than the worry factor?
You turn off your mic, Mario.
Yeah, we'll share this so that everybody, who's really interested in digging in, because again, it's 71 slides. So that plus the stuff that Ruth referenced, right, in her article, we'll make sure when we put this out that we have those links in there.
Well, I've got a couple of good friends in the network security industry. I'm sure, Mario, you know a few, and you know the ones I know. And they're very diligent about protecting companies, keeping them out of the newspapers. And I'd like to get their take on AI, and not because they will have that kind of negative approach to it. Say, what?
You think they might worry?
I think if we're talking about JJ, I think that he was very good at keeping my previous company out of the newspapers. It was incredible. So I'd love to get him on and get a hot take on what he thinks about AI and someone in a technical space. So maybe that's a future podcast.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested in hearing how because I think that there is a difference between operators and their fear and process designers and how they see it. And, you can just go into anybody's office and you can go into closing department. And then there are people there who are sitting there and they've got their headphones in and they're listening to whatever, and they're not, and they're doing the operation of doing it. And then there's other people who are sitting there going, why am I clicking that twice? Why am I doing that twice? Why should I should move that? I should have a folder here. That's how their minds work. And the way that they see AI versus the way that other people see AI are very, very different. Those are two different people in our industry. Never the twain shall be.
They may grow together, though. You never know.
Usually always they don't like each other because they think very differently, and this person's doing it faster than this
one. Or they end up getting married, right?
Yeah.
Or they get it,
Yeah. They love each other. They just don't like each other. Well, if we don't have anything, do we have anything else we want to talk about?
What'd you do with AI this week?
Oh, I hope you skip over that.
I'll start, Kyle. I'll get you off the hook. And I'm going negative this week. Maybe I'm all
shocker. Oh my gosh.
So I had a tiny little project that I had been working on, and I started it in ChatGPT, coding it. And I had moved it around. I tried Codex, and Codex was for me a massive failure. In fact, I almost screenshotted something for you, Rob. So the way Codex works, and I have like ChatGPT Pro, $20 a month subscription. The way it works is I gave it the code I had already developed, and I said, I want you to change this label. So just a label, just change the text from X to Y. And it just says, okay, I've started. And it's got a little thermometer saying I'm working on it. I'm like, okay. So I say another thing. I say the next thing. And I'm thinking, I'm like Rob. I'm like the tech lead. I'm doing all this stuff. And I don't know whether it's doing it right. So I'm kind of sitting here waiting. The change label 17 minutes later is still working. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me. So it was so slow. And by the way, there were several times where it came back and said, I couldn't figure this out and whatever. I was like, this is just a complete waste of my time. Like I probably spent an hour and a half trying to get it to do it, thinking I'm going to be like Rob.
Are you
I wanna
sure
be
you
like
spelled
Rob.
label
I
right?
want to be like Rob, right? I want to have threads of stuff coding all over the place. No, I bailed on it. Back to Lovable. Lovable's great. I love Lovable.
Okay,
is
he
so
just wanted to
simple.
pitch Lovable. That's what he wanted to do.
This episode sponsored by Lovable. No.
Oh, that's funny.
So I got a new laptop. It's not new; it's a used laptop. But Mike Morehouse, who was on the show covering for Ruth when she was underwater, was kind enough to share one. We've got more memory, more processing power, and all that other stuff. So I'm in the process of.
Wait, we didn't get our stuff. We didn't get our swag. How'd you get swag?
I know, right? He may be a business partner in one of my startups.
Oh.
So anyway, unbeknownst to me, I have like 100 apps. Like I didn't realize how many different applications I have on my machine to do all the stuff that I like to do and configuring and all that other stuff. And I've got my old Surface laptop sitting right next to me, and I got my new Dell laptop. And just like, well, how do I move what's the most efficient way to get my Postgres database from my Surface to my Dell, that type of thing. And so rather than go to every software's README knowledge base, I just brought up a ChatGPT, created a custom GPT that said, I got a Surface 5, I got a Dell Precision, whatever this thing is. I got it. Here's the apps I want to do. Walk me through step by step how to move the stuff over. Save me so much time. And it was, I want to say 99% accurate throughout the course of yesterday of like really clear instructions on some very complicated getting the database migrated over and this stuff like that. So it was, Roland was my friend yesterday. We didn't bicker at all. So
nice.
Yeah.
Roland in the fun. I got to tell you, I've been fortunate enough that in this market to have an offer on my home up here in the Pacific Northwest, and we've been busy, boxing, packing, doing all this stuff amongst being sick. I don't know if I'm trying to keep a stiff upper lip today. I'm still feeling a little under the weather, but I feel much better than I did yesterday. So I didn't really have a lot of chance to jump in other than the cursory looking for stuff online. So
fun fact.
Apologies.
Fun fact, Kyle, movers are amongst the least likely to be affected by AI.
Last time I helped AI to move this box for me, it said, I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean. That sounds like my son.
There's some robots in Amazon warehouses that can move boxes pretty well. So yeah.
So I told you guys, and this is what I've been using AI for. I've been using AI to condition my own data because I have really, and this is what my assistant has been doing, because I would really love to use Copilot. But Copilot has the same search functionality that Windows Explorer does, which is poo. And, it doesn't work. Like, it doesn't work at all. Even if it's in the name, it doesn't matter. And so Copilot would be fantastic if it knew where to look. And so part of what I have been having my assistant do is go through and make document metadata, which right at the very top says what it is, what's the version, what it does, a summary. And, I can't go through tens of thousands of documents. So he's going through and he's putting that at the top and anything that he can't figure out. But I do wonder, when we were talking about the work use, how many people can actually use it yet? Yeah. I mean, I know I'm a pretty good user, and I cannot use Copilot yet because it can't find anything in my whole life. I need to tell it where those things are first for it to be able to use it and be functional. So that's what I'm using it.
So what have you named your agent? It's got to have a name.
And why is it a he?
Well, I don't know, because
Ben focusing on the wrong things, guys.
No, Ben is Ben's my assistant, and so Ben is a guy.
Oh, like a human being. Oh, I thought you were referring to it as your AI agent.
Oh, that's what I thought.
He is using, because we share a GPT.
He's AI that's actual intelligence. He's not artificial intelligence.
And you can now expect an email from OpenAI talking about how you're in violation of your end user license agreement by sharing your GPT and, and expecting another $20 a month from you.
Well, we pay for that because he is in my workspace.
Oh, got it. Okay.
He's all in there. I do, but he also is within Copilot and literally has zero functionality. I mean, Copilot, it seems like it'd be awesome, but it does nothing. Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, I kind of agree with you, Ruth. I will share as our parting note that Copilot disappointed me in that it created a big list of information for me. And I asked it, I said, please export this into Excel and create an Excel spreadsheet for this. And it said, I just don't do that.
I can't do those things.
And I'm like, really? You're Copilot. You're in the Microsoft suite and you can't write it to your own product?
So that was one of the actual examples they used when they said why Copilot is moving to Anthropic, because Anthropic actually handled stuff like that, creating Excels and PowerPoints. It did it better than ChatGPT.
Good feedback. Okay. Well, on that note, I'm going to say, I'm Kyle Myers.
I'm Rob Katz.
I'm Ruth Lee.
And I'm still Mario Di Benedetto.
And this has been the AI Riff.
Wires hum like whispers in the deep dark night. Shadows dancing strange under neon light. Digits spinning fast like a gambler's hand. The clock chimes change, it's the new command. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean. Binary prophets riding fading streams. Data flows like rivers fueling all our dreams. Simple or savvy, it's all the same path. Under skies of innovation, we redraw the map. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean. Set the rhythm to the beat of change we sing. Every click and hum a key that rings. A revolution, quiet, but it's vast. Building empires where echoes of futures cast.